We are live. Hey, guys, I missed you so much. We're back, and I'm glad to be back. Welcome, wherever you are in this wonderful world, and let me know in the chat that you can hear me, see me. Yes, indeed, there I am. Hey, what's happening? I'll just wait a little bit here till people come on. Yes, I am streaming. Juan. Hello, Juan. What's up? Mimika. What's happening? Welcome back. Hey, Nick. Welcome back. Good to see you. What kind of noise is it? Oh, that's the fan. You guys, I got a fan on my computer going. So I don't have my usual microphone. It's just the laptop microphone. So apologize for that. Thanks for the heads up, Nick. Yeah, so we got an awesome little program for you guys tonight. Oh, you know what I have to do? I've got to go and get some artwork. Forgot to do that. We got some artwork here. Let me see. This is the artwork. See that? Oh my gosh. We got a lot going on here tonight. Let me just select and download. Bing, download. Working. Okay, cool. So let me see. I have to put all those into Photoshop. Let me see here. Alright, so let's get it going. We got a quote here, and it is this from Michelangelo. If people knew how hard I worked to get my mastery, it wouldn't seem so wonderful at all. Okay, that's a pretty profound thing to say for this master who changed and revolutionized Western art in the high Renaissance period. Michelangelo was born in 1475, and he lasted about 90 years. That's a long time for people back then. They didn't live that long. And he was a sculptor, painter, poet, architect. And so he was a real Renaissance man, as we say, after the fact, centuries after, right? The Renaissance man could kind of do it all. And so he was the iconic Renaissance man. And so the secret was that there is no secret to people who are successful, to people who have the skills. The secret is hard work. There's just nothing that beats it. And I've heard this said by professionals today that I know. Excuse me. They say the big secret is there is no secret. It's just hard work and time. So, Michelangelo really was confessing here that if people really knew how hard he worked, it wouldn't be special. It wouldn't be magic. So that's darn interesting and quite an admission for him, because we think of him as the top of the pile, of Western art and the beginning of Renaissance and so much. So you don't have to worry, I mean, you don't have to put pressure on yourself that this is just going to come through osmosis or out of thin air. It's not going to happen like that. It didn't happen that way for Michelangelo, Da Vinci, Pontormo, Raphael, and everyone else. We're all human, and we've been given more or less talent, more or less ability to, go for it, but we can all, work hard. And so hopefully, if you want to work hard, you'll gain mastery. Okay. So let's look a little bit at Michelangelo and the wonderful stuff that he did. Right? This. You guys familiar with this? Sistine Chapel. Right? I've seen that. It's amazing. It's a very small chapel. And, but painted. The ceiling, the walls, everything. This here is the gates of hell. So that's that far wall in the distance here. And I think when I was there, they had just cleaned it or were cleaning parts of it. And so now the colors are a lot more intense and pure. And they had faded over the centuries. And the ceiling is here. Right? So that's looking up. And that's that famous scene where God sort of breathes life or touches Adam, and he comes to life. Right? So it's a great depiction of the Genesis story of the beginning of life, right? The beginning of creation. Then here's the Pietà, and you guys might know this. It's the mother with Jesus after he came down off the cross, was taken down. And it's an amazing sculpture, but there's one thing that I remember when we went to St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, the person who was giving us the tour said, notice how big Mary is compared to Jesus. For Jesus to, lay on her lap, she had to be pretty big, otherwise it wouldn't look right. So he had to make her bigger in order for this to kind of work. And so people don't often notice that. They pointed that out. And so, interesting stuff, beautiful, well-known, famous sculpture. There's the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel looking up. And all these depictions of Genesis and stories in the Bible. Great stuff. And then there's this. Everybody knows this, right? Michelangelo's David, another biblical figure. David who slew Goliath. And he's holding that tool, that weapon where he projects the rock into Goliath and fells Goliath. So notice how big the hands are on David. He intentionally made the hands huge. And he also sculpted it so that it sits on a pedestal so that when you're looking up, it works in perspective. So he kind of did some adjustments there visually. So that thing is sitting on a pedestal. And it's pretty high, so you're looking up at it. And so he made the head a little bit bigger and other things. So it wouldn't appear so small. It would appear more in proportion when you were looking at from a worm's eye view or an extremely low point of view. Interesting stuff. Very advanced. So let's look at some of Michelangelo's drawings here. I thought it'd be interesting. And we can kind of pick it apart and see how he worked. Hey, Jessica, welcome back. How you doing? And Roberto Stocco. Yeah, how you doing, guys? So, interesting. Let's look close up. He's working in a red chalk technique on prepared paper that probably he prepared himself. And you can see he's working in a crosshatch style. So if we look at that, we can see that he's got this kind of crosshatch thing going. So if you draw the eye here, Just real quick. And he's just building up. Building up the volume through tone. And so I'm just going to do a quick down and dirty kind of thing here. Okay, great. It's my little quick blocking. Okay. So he's kind of working like this with a sharpened piece of chalk. Tip would be very sharp, and he would most likely find the darks and separate them from the lights. So you find kind of a flat shadow pattern. You go in one direction. You can see that in the head here, right? Kind of up in here. He's kind of going one direction with quick strokes, parallel, and then to build up the tone, a little darker, and change the angle. And you can go more space between the strokes or less space. More space will give you, less of a build-up of value. And if you go in another direction, you tighten up the space a little bit darker, right? Very simple. Right, so I could just sort of build up this stuff here. And you can sort of go with the form. You can figure out how to do this. I don't think there's any kind of science to do it. Every time I do it, it's a little bit, I'll just kind of figure it out. I know the basic idea, but I just want to build it up with lines. And go over the form. But you don't have to go, over the form with these cross contours. You can just build it up with straight lines. Everything can be straight. You just change the angle each time. Okay. So let's see how he's working in this hand as well. He's doing the same kind of thing. Right, just working that kind of a crosshatch technique. And then this one, I love this one. He's back. So amazing. Again, you can see pretty clearly how he's doing this. So he seems to be, going ahead and giving us a contour of something, and then he's going from big to small, general to specific, and then he'll give it a tone, and it'll start to kind of build up that shoulder muscle. And then build up the tricep. And you might have even just, went ahead and put a tone over the whole thing, and then built up the smaller parts. So, good technique to know, to do. And it takes a little practice, but it's pretty effective. At first it seems weird, but as you go through the drawing and you build up these tones slowly, it starts to emerge, and it's really quite surprising for me, even to see what I could do when I've done this in the past. And there you go. Let me know in the chat if you like that, if you kind of dig that. Zoran, what's happening? Yeah. So I thought we could here's another one. Okay, so here's a portrait he did. Totally different technique. This just looks like I don't know exactly how he did this, but if we look close up, look at the background. It's really worked over. With these small strokes. See that? That's interesting. Let's give myself some flow here. Here's the flow. Yeah, so it almost looks like hewn stone, like he chiseled part of the rock out of there, the way he worked that so fine. And then when it gets to the person, yeah, I don't know what is the material they worked on. It could be charcoal, kind of rubbed in, drawn, and kind of smudged, and just done. Yeah, here you can see right there in the shoulder area that it really looks like a cross-hatching. And so that's pretty interesting. Right there, so he really got fine with that cross-hatching. And then just went to total black, cross-hatching like that. Yeah, beautiful. Look at that face. You really feel like there's somebody there. And so then what I thought we could do is maybe go through one of these drawings. So this is one of his sketches. And he had about 20,000 sketches, and only 600 or so are extant today. And so they belong to different museums, and they tour the world at different times. So could be, let's try to go through this a little bit. Oops. Cancel that. Okay. So I thought we could go through one of his drawings and show you kind of how he works. So this is black Conte or charcoal on a prepared sepia tone paper, and I'm just going to use this brush here. If you want to pick up my brushes, they're on drum mode. We got awesome drawing and painting brushes. There's everything that you can imagine, especially for drawing. Okay, so I'm going to go through this drawing using spheres and partial ellipses and show you how you can get through a drawing just like that. And no harder than that. No more complex than that. So Pontormo used to do this. Pontormo was a contemporary of Michelangelo, and Pontormo would use the circle, turn it into kind of a sphere, and go through the figure. So if we take, a circle, it's pretty static. Now, if I break it up like this and leave gaps, it's still a circle. You still fill in the gaps psychologically, right? But I've left these gaps here, so there's a place where your eye jumps and picks up and jumps and picks up and jumps. So there's this movement now is created. Whereas this circle on the left didn't really have much movement. Now, what you do is, if you do, an arm like this, it looks like the Michelin Man. It looks like a snowman. It's because the symmetry is equal on both the left and right side. There's no movement there, and it looks bumpy and bonky, and it's not how real anatomy works. So we have to be a little more crafty, and let's say we're going to change the symmetry, and we're going to do something like this. And so now we have this combined with this, and now combine this symmetry working for us. And so now we have a bit of movement. Now if I do that like this, now we're creating some kind of movement where if we had symmetry, we wouldn't have that movement. So, let me take the back one. So if I take this, and I just go around, and I turn it into a sphere, right? And I'm drawing through like it's glass. It has a front and a back. So I'm trying to give you that sense of fullness, right? So this is high. That's going to be low. Okay, so we're offsetting things. We're going this way and that way, this way and that way. And that's creating the movement through. And then I'm drawing little bits of overlaps and compression right there and there. And then I'm stretching on the other side. So you have a stretching side and a compressing side. They're like little balls of liquid, let's say. And that's more like what human anatomy is like. It's dynamic, it's got movement and flow, and it kind of combines all these three things here. Okay, so let's go through and put that into play. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Check the chat real quick. Yeah, I got audio noise. I know that. It's probably the fan in the computer. I apologize for that. So let's just keep going here. Just let me know if you can't hear me. I'll try to talk louder. Okay. So what I'm going to do first is capture the action, which is the gesture. And I'm just kind of using that principle that I just talked about. I'm using C-curves and S-curves. In succession here. Okay. So there is by capturing the action. It's like an armature. Just going to use basic circles to get through this. So I've got one side of the rib cage. I hope this is dark enough and big enough. I'll go a little bigger. One side of the rib cage and then the other side. Okay, so again, I'm using this principle of that, right? And then I come over to this side, and then I find its counterpart over here. And I'm just kind of going through and finding the big stuff. And then I've got this long one. And then I've got this hamstring. So here. Right, so as I go through and I kind of start to draw over as well. So I'm finding the circular oval in there, and then I'm drawing over the form to describe the form in space. Now I'm going this way, and then this way, right? You see how I'm doing that? And so this is one way to handle the figure. Let's go on the other side. Now, let's go back up to the ribcage though and just see how he's got a bunch of bumps in here, and it looks a little awkward. So we could, we could copy that, or we could make it, try to make it a little bit better. Right? Michelangelo was at the forefront of all this stuff. He didn't know everything. He created and was the inventor in so much of what we do, and yet we improve on it over the centuries. Okay, so now I kind of added some smaller spheroid shapes, and now I can go and add that other part of the gluteus maximus, and then start with the legs. So I've got this, and then this, right? So I'm going to the other side. And I'm going to find this and find that. Right? Then I'll kind of find this. See how it's like an orchestra? It's like this and like that, and this and like that. Kind of like music back and forth. This one's higher, this one's lower. Get it? Now, that's powerful. Maybe a little bit slimmer for that ankle. Okay, so, go this way, kind of go over. That one a little bit bigger there. So I can get through the figure just like that. And I think that is so amazing. And then inside we have some spheroid kind of partial ellipse kind of forms that are, they're like complex forms. Compound forms. And then we have some stuff in here. Okay, and then we can continue to build on that and hopefully realize it even more. But that's the idea. And that's how you can get through the figure with these spherical shapes. And then you can add your cross hatching and separate the dark from the light. Okay, so that is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions on that. Yeah, okay. So let me see. I've got to grab these drawings you guys did, and we can get into some clear stuff. So I hope that was helpful. There was someone who did a drawing last week, and I didn't get to it. And I promised I would this time. And this one here, let me just take a screenshot. That would be the easiest, I think. Okay. Cool. And I think that this was the reference photo. I don't know if John is here. John, if you're here, let me know in the chat. I think this is John. Or Juan. Juan R., you're here. What's happening? Okay. Yes, Juan. Okay, cool. Let me just take these and make them small. Add some background. Guys, I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention this, I wanted to mention that I've been minting these NFTs, and it's really exciting stuff. and I wanted to show it to you. So let me take a moment to do that, if you don't mind. NFTs are really exploding right now, and they're non-fungible tokens. This means that you can take your digital art and make it something original. Never before in the history of mankind have we been able to do that with our worthless digital art. You can also take your traditional art, scan it, take a photo, and make it digital, and then sell it. So they're one of a kind now. And I'm on ab2.gallery. And these are some of the NFTs that I have created and sold. I don't know if it's going to show up here. Okay. Doesn't exactly show what I've sold, but I've sold NFTs here on this site. It's pretty exciting. Also on Rarible, I have some stuff over here. So if you guys are interested in that, get into it. Make a little money. Learn about it. Learn about blockchain and cryptocurrency. Usually these things are transacted in with Ethereum, and that's how people trade, buy the tokens and trade with them. So you buy a little Ethereum, and then you buy someone's NFT. And so you've got someone's artwork, and you have a token, a cryptocurrency token, a coin that goes up and down in value. So it's pretty neat. The possibilities now that we have of artists. So this is a moving animated one that I did. I don't know about you, but it's pretty exciting, pretty fun. Anybody out there know about cryptocurrency, NFTs? Let me know in the chat. I just wanted to show you guys that in case you had no idea. I'm doing it. I'm selling stuff. And so I want you guys to be able to take advantage of these things as artists. We need to kind of help each other out. So, okay, let's get back to this clip here. I'm going to check the chat. Where's the chats? See what you guys are saying. Yes, go ahead. Yes, hey, yes. 10% goes to creator. No, that's Zoran. If you sell, so I'm selling these things for Ethereum and another coin called Algorand. Now, the cool things about these things is that it's like the music industry. You can make a royalty. So if someone buys your NFT, they can turn around and sell it to another collector, and then you make 10%. So that's the 10%. I designated 10% goes to me, the creator, if it gets resold. Okay, rest in peace, Dogecoin. Okay, that's good one. Okay, Dan is 100% clueless. Cool, we're going to clue you in. Now you're not clueless anymore. You know something. The door has been cracked open. Okay, now back into the Draw Juice universe. Okay, let's see. Alright, so nice. I really like this this finishing that you've done on. It's excellent. The rendering quality, the line quality, especially here on the cheek. The variety of lines that you have under the chin, on the cheek, right? Thick, thin, razor thin line, and then everything's there. The values are really good. And the texture of the paper is kind of cool. Usually I don't like drawing on that, but it looks good. appear on your portrait. So let me see. So your values are good. I'm thinking there's a little bit of a proportion thing happening, right? Where his face is a little bit wide horizontally compared to our gentleman on the left. And so if we just take kind of a look at that, maybe just see. Right, so yours is a bit wider. And the length, the height actually, just look at that. I have to drag a new one out. Let's look at the face. Something like that. But those are pretty okay. I think this is a little bit taller. So a little bit of proportion, but we'll take what we can get. You've got great, really nice values, really nice details, really nice parts. Let's talk about the values because they could be improved. And it's when you go and separate the lights and darks. When we squint down, I'm seeing a real clear, not even squinting, I'm seeing a real clear division between light and dark. Right? So that shadow pattern can go very up, it can go darker. It's because it's a shadow and they need to be dark. You don't want it to be too light because then it starts to, like on this eye here, that value is like a half tone. It belongs more in the lights. And so if you want to, when you separate out the lights and darks, especially with direct lighting like this, you can go further. You can go darker. You can push it. And in fact, if you do, it will help your illusion of that third dimension that you're trying to create. Right? So push your values. Don't be afraid of the dark, as we say. And that'll give it a little more drama, a little more mood and lighting. Okay? This is a great photo to work on. See now, so when I want to create the halftones in this glabella area, those halftones were used by you in the darks, right? Those are those tones that I want to use now here and in here. But we can't until we got to go darker. So those tones aren't the darks anymore, they're the lights. So we're kind of calibrating or keying the drawing. So that we can use more of the value range. And that's the advantage of, going a bit darker and using kind of the 5 value system. Right, so you went dark with the hair, but look at, when I squint down that hair, when I squint down, when I sample that hair, it's black. When I sample the skin, it's still really dark. It's like 80-90% in those shadows, right? So they're very close in value. This one here that I sampled under the chin is there, and the hair is there. So they're essentially the same. So that you've kind of separated them out a little bit too much. And so that's why I'm darkening it down and giving myself some room to create some of these planes and subtle shifts of form. Let's see. Okay. And especially under the nose, that's really obvious. It's really dark. And so just go ahead and be bold. I know it's a little counterintuitive to put dark on a face like that. But if you want to express more volume, you want a little more drama, you need to push your values. Okay. Let's see. And then definitely in the mouth as well. I think I'm gonna stretching that out a little bit. That's wrong. I need a little bit more room. Oh, let's see. Oh. Okay. Forget that. So I'm just following, kind of separating out the lights and darks a little bit more. And then I can put a core shadow in there, right, and make that cheek turn. I can put a core shadow in the chin where it rolls away from the light into the shadow. That stuff I couldn't really do before because it didn't have enough value, on the paper. Squeezed out of my pencil on the paper. And all that stuff. And then on the cheek, now on the light side, we can go back to there and add some value number 3, kind of a dark half tone, just before they go into the shadow. And these tones are now expressing planes in space as they turn away or towards the light source. And that's integral and crucial in how we see form. It is the way we see form. So I would go through, put my half tones in, my light half tones and dark half tones. See there's half tones on either side of his nose. And then I just come through and soften things. And make them, on round things I put soft edges, and hard things I put crisp edges. That's the basic process, basic idea. You kind of squint and compare the model, compare the reference to my drawing, and back and forth. Continually doing that. Then I would now the transition of the hair, you put a pretty tight line around that, and that's going to call attention to it. It looks a little unnatural, and so what I would do is just I would soften that up. This is going to be really effective. So I'll just kind of soften it that way. So I could go darker with the hair as well. Right, so value is contextual, and the eye is easily fooled. So, especially in the reflected lights, those reflected lights look lighter than they are because you compare them to the shadow, to the dark tones and shadows around them, makes it look lighter. What we should do is compare these half tones, over in the reflected light, over in here. So reflected lights, where you can find them all over the place, over here, in here. Compare them to the lights. Don't compare them to the other shadow areas around here and here. Don't do that, because then your eye is going to see this guy as much lighter. It's going to see this thing in here, which is reflected light, lighter, because I'm comparing it to this dark and this dark. Don't do that. Compare them to the lights over here, and you'll see that they're very much darker. So if I sample a light over here and compare it, it's quite a bit lighter than that. See how dark that is compared to this light? That's what you don't want to do. You don't want to get fooled. Okay? That's what I mean. Our eyes can be easily fooled when it comes to color and value. Hey, David and Maria and Meta. Good to have you guys here. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Oops, there. I like how you held back with the detail in the eyes, because there is no detail in there. That was a good job. And this plane here on the left is turning away from the light a little bit more. The light is coming from the top right. And so that's kind of some of the stuff that you can still modify, you can still change if you were of the mind to. Of course, you don't have to. You can move on from this one. You can chalk this one up as a success, right? And do this stuff on the next one, because there's a lot of really nice stuff that you do on this one. Because it just looks beautiful. Looks like art to me. So Juan, great job. Thanks for submitting that. And I got to it. I told you I would, and I did. So let's jump over to this one here. See what we got. Okay. This is Dennis. Is that right? Dennis. I think so. Okay. Let me see here. I'm going to take that signature. You can right click, left click, right click, whatever, click on it, and just do a fill, and do a context aware fill, and it'll kind of fill it with the contents below. That's kind of a nice, cheap, easy, fast way to kind of take things out that are kind of, bugging you. Do it one more click. Control click, fill, content aware. Okay. Alright. Nice eyes. Eyes look beautiful. A sense of lighting in this one. Totally looks great. I like it. It's lovely. Yeah. So your rendering is great. The form looks wonderful. I like it a lot. Values look good. You could go a little bit darker in the shadow side, in my opinion, because then the light would really glow. So if you go darker, your lights are going to be lighter, and you're going to give them room to breathe, so to speak. Okay, I need to save this, and I'm going to shut down Photoshop and start it over. That's what I need to say. Got something weird happening. I reinstalled the driver in my pen, and it's a little funky. Let's see if this will solve it. Technical difficulties. Okay, yeah, let's see. Oh, something messy. Something's messed up. Okay. Well, maybe my computer's getting a little too hot. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna talk through these because we only have like 10 minutes left. So I think it's beautiful. The parts, the sense of lighting is wonderful. And then when it goes, again, you haven't separated your darks from your lights as much as you could, and that'll make your lights lighter. And I would do that and see what you think. And this detail in here is maybe just kind of too much. See that reflected light? That right there in the jaw, it's too light. That bit of reflected light under the nose, right by above the mouth, too light, right? So it's starting to look like this cheek that's actually in the light and this reflected light that's in the shadow. They're both the same value, and that's destroying your sense of depth. Okay, so you got a little bit fooled there by the contextual nature of values. So darken those up. Darken those up, especially here on the nose, this here above the mouth, and by the jaw. The one under the jaw is kind of okay, but see what you can do with that. Okay, does that make sense? Let me check the chat. Juan, you got a question? What is it? Shoot. Go ahead. And then, let's see. Let's bring this one over. Okay. We did this one. Okay. Same thing. I would say a little too light overall. You could go dark on one side and light on the other. So expand your value range. Put some lights in these highlight areas to make that forehead show the volume of the cranial mass and the brow, right? And the nose coming out. You need more value, more lights, more midtones, and more darks. And that is the basic problem with this one. So it's too much in the gray, a little in the gray, except for the eyes and some of the hair, you need to, I would say, push it. Don't be afraid of the dark. That's one thing. One place where students get caught up is they're afraid to go dark. And some people are afraid to go light. Okay? So there's a few ways where people get a little messed up, you know. And it's no wonder, because this is tricky stuff. Let me know if that makes sense. I think it does. So then let's do the next one here. Okay, meta. Looking good. Beautiful. Love the variety of texture here. The technique of pulling tone out with your eraser to pick out the hair and highlights. Looking good. Awesome. It's got movement, it's got drama, it has rendering, all that good stuff. And it makes it come alive. Guys, if you wouldn't mind, leave a comment, because that helps the video with the algorithm, pushes it out there. Leave a comment, leave a like, hit the like button, all that sort of good stuff. And subscribe if you haven't already. Okay, so one thing I'm thinking is that, again, within the darks and the contextual nature of value, whatever's next to, one value or another, it's going to influence it. So if you put something dark next to something light, it's going to make that lighter thing look lighter. So when you look into the shadows and you have your eyes wide open, you're going to tend to get tricked by the reflected light that's in there. And you're going to be looking in the shadows and comparing it to other shadows. And it's going to be too light. And you did that here. You got this too light. And especially there's a highlight right here. Not good. Okay. It's not where the highlight's supposed to go. It's supposed to go highlight, halftone, core shadow, reflected light, cast shadow. It follows the rules and the laws of light. Every light has an opposite dark. Okay. It's a dark, not light. Okay. If you put light where it's supposed to be dark, it destroys that. It messes with the force, right? So if Luke Skywalker is light, Darth Vader's dark, they're both working together to form a whole. But if there's light in the dark in the wrong place, it's going to destroy the force. There'll be a disturbance in the force. Okay. So this ear here, this cheek, quiet it down. There's a whole nice shadow right here that can go darker to make her chin pop and to make her neck look like a cylindrical form that it is. And then you can put that core shadow into the cheek to make that turn. Now, this is a little bit hard photo to work with because it goes real dark in the shadows, but this is where you can use your artistic choice, which you did, and I love that. I support that. But it has to follow the laws of light, rendering, how to render a cube, how to render a sphere, how to render a cylinder. Those things, are there and they work. And so if you follow them, it's lends strength to your drawing. And then you can break those rules here and there. But first, let's do the rules and get comfortable with doing them. Then you can break them. But you can't break them if you don't know sort of how they work yet. In the light, you did a great job. It's a little bit dirty looking here, meaning it's out of value. So your light's got a little dark. And your darkest light is about as dark as your lightest dark. And that's, again, confuses the whole thing. So go a little bit lighter here. Okay, a little bit here. And then make your shadow here make sense, because when it turns into The forehead turns away from the light into the shadow, into the side of the head. There's nothing there, so it doesn't make sense. Now, where you really scored well is in these features. The eyes, the reflection, the iris, the lids, how they all fit together and join the nose, how the nose fits in the forehead, how it fits to the lips. Oh, that stuff's all great. So you got the parts, and I can see you love those things because you spent the most time on it. But give these other things their due, right? If you don't want to render hair, just make it a shape with a correct value. So make it a characteristic shape that looks like hair and give it the right value, and then you won't really have to. You can do like you did, just render a couple of pieces of hair, and we'll buy off on it that there's total head of hair fully rendered in detail when you didn't. So does that make sense? Let me check. Does it make sense? Let me know. But otherwise it's lovely. And I would just say, make that shadow shape a family of its own, and, darken it down and keep it real simple, and then pull out a couple of strands of hair, like highlights here and there, and then just leave it again, then move on to the next one. So this one's almost there. I put in a little bit more work to it, and then you can call it done. All right, great job, Meta. Let's see here. I'm going to do one more. And it has to be, guess who's? Mimika, master copy of Sergeant. Ooh. Yeah, Mimika, a great person to do master copy is Johnson or Sargent's. Okay, and you're working from an oil painting. Very good. That's a nice little jump there. A sophisticated jump. Okay? If you're working in pencil and you work in oil paint and you're translating it, but once you know your basics, you can do it. It doesn't matter. If you use watercolor to translate oil, it won't look exactly like it, but you're not trying to do that. You're trying to make a pencil drawing, but using the lighting, using the shapes, using the compositional knowledge, using the rendering techniques of Sargent. You're studying him, right? Just checking. Meta said, makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Yeah, cool. Okay, I'm glad it makes sense. Yeah, so yes, David says, wow, great study. Exclamation point. Yes, I agree. Yeah, there's a confidence now that you have with your tools, with your application of the material onto the paper. Look at that beautiful neck. Look at that cheek. Look at the sense of lighting. The material of the garments, the hair. Now you kind of put a full valued figure on a light background, and you may have wanted to do that. If you told me that was your intention, then I would believe you. So his background is kind of middle light. It's right in the middle. Here's his light. Let me know in the chat, what you were thinking, Namika. Let me see. In the darks, you could go a little bit darker in the sclera, in the white of the eye. You see how it's popping out? So it's in the shadow, and yet it's got a value that of the light side. It's popping out. And it's disturbing, the sense of form and sort of like the pattern of light and dark, right? Because it's sort of just as light as the nose. I know the sclera of the eye is white, but don't paint it white. Don't draw it white. It's bluish and it's darker than you think. You just need to darken that down to about the level of this forehead. Right? It's tricky business in there. The same thing with that lid. Just slightly darker and the sclera a little bit darker. And then it's perfect. Okay? And then you get yourself a nice study. You could go a little, see how these next to the dark side of the lower part of the face, the garment is almost black. Go ahead and darken that up to this level here at this occlusion shadow. Go ahead, they're just indistinguishable. So go ahead and darken that part up. That's going to make the face pop forward. Because again, the contextual bit is really important with values. So if you darken that up, it'll make this reflected light in the shadows look a little bit lighter, even though it's some shadows, and contribute to this sense of form here. Beautiful hair, lovely. You're kind of starting to understand now how you can sculpt the hair and how he just used simple planes with no detail at all, no strands of hair, just almost top, side, stair step of this hair. Let me check the chat. I learned to see. You learn to see, Namika says. I learned to see. Very good. You learn to see. Okay, cool. That's what you need, is to learn to see like an artist. And you're definitely on your way. So if you want us to look here, remember last time I did kind of a thing on these 4 basic value setups that you have. You have kind of like light on dark, dark on light, full value on light, full value back on a light or middle figure. Just those are the 4 basic ways. And then you can create a gradation. So here where there's a stark separation between the background and the shoulder, wherein we don't have that with Sargent. These 2 values are a lot closer, so we look here because he quieted these things down. It's a little louder here because the value between these 2 things is a little greater. So here you've got it pretty loud here because there's a hard line and a big value separation. So if you added a little value in that background, it would quiet that down. It would become like a secondary player. So this would be your first read. This would be your second read, and then maybe third read, and then fourth read. You keep the viewer hanging around the picture a little longer, lingering there, right? Going back and forth and jumping around. And that's kind of what you want. You're the art director, and you control where the viewer, how that viewer consumes your drawing, right? And you're not giving it to them all at once. You're not saying, here, just eat this whole elephant one time. You say, no, eat this little part and enjoy that. And then move over to this little part and enjoy that. And they can savor each little bit as they go through it. Okay? So that's awesome. You're growing by leaps and bounds each time, Namika. And I'm really proud of you. I'm proud of everybody here who's doing this, taking on this challenge. Every advance of yours is a strength, power to go on. Yes. Thank you, Namika. Yeah, Juan says amazing work. Okay, so that is pretty much it for tonight. You guys, it was so fun to be with you again. I look forward to next week to see what's going to happen. I'm going to have a challenge later this week in the Facebook group. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, where there's a community of artists learning and growing, go ahead and do it. There's a link in the description. You can get my brushes. There's a link in the description, all that stuff. Check out the NFT stuff, if that's a new world for you. maybe it's calling to you. Maybe it's a way for you to, make a little money from your art. But it's definitely exciting. And I'm jumping in and wanted to bring that to you in case it resonated with you in some way or another. All right, so everybody, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, guys. I'm out of here. Peace. We'll see you all next time. Okay, let me just check the chat one last time. You bet, Jessica. Thanks for coming by. Thanks, Zoran. Thanks, David. Thanks, Juan. Mimika, Mita, Sampico. Yes, David. And Den. Yeah. Cool. You guys really couldn't do this without you. Thanks for supporting me. Come on back, and we'll just keep growing as a community. Okay? But we'll see you in the Facebook group. We'll see you here next week. And I'm out. Take care. Bye.